Okay, hi everybody. So I'm Rochel Albert, and I'm going to be your mentor tonight on intimacy, the pleasures of intimacy, owning your Ona. So this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart because I went through my own intimacy challenges, not because of any particular issues that I had, but because of my experience with my college teacher, which is an interesting take on how things work. In terms of, I became religious at 25, and I was very excited to become religious because I had heard about this whole thing about no touching before marriage. I was like, oh my gosh, where do I sign up? I was so excited after going out with literally a couple hundred men living in California, and they just all wanted one thing. You could just guess what that is. They wanted one thing. And it was so frustrating, after a few days, you're just like, what is this? Doesn't anybody just want to get married? So then I heard about Orthodox Judaism, that there's no touching before marriage. I'm like, seriously? Where do I sign up? So Baruch Hashem, I met my husband. We started dating. 3 days later, we were madly in love, still madly in love, but we were really crazy about each other. No touching. It was just like I heard about. And then I had my classes with my college teacher. Now she's a super strict from Machmir teacher who went over all the different, halachas of the nida and this and that. And then it came to the intimacy piece of it. So, I'm 30 years old, like I've been around the block. I understand what all this is all about. So I just asked her some basic questions, simple things, nothing complicated, like lingerie, like about female orgasm, and about just nothing crazy. She looks at me like with a totally straight face, and she's like, you're in the frum world now. You need to clear your perverted mind and like, be a holy woman. Like you basically just need to lay there and just don't expect much. I promise you, this is teaching from Valid Shiva ladies. Anyway, so it took a while for her fear that she put into me to kind of get out of my brain. When I got married, my husband, like, what is wrong with you? Like, what is going on here? I would cry. I would feel fearful. I wouldn't let him do anything. And it was just like, it was really awful. And that's not what I experienced. That's not what I planned on experiencing with my husband after I became religious. So it took about a year after, my husband going through the Gemara, showing me like, listen, sweetheart, what she taught you was the strictest of the strict, and it doesn't apply to most people. That's for like the holiest people, that if everybody agrees. And he says, I don't agree. So, that was my experience to introduction into the business of Ona and how bad things could go off the rails. So I didn't really realize that it was such a common problem, actually. Fast forward, got married. We had a couple of children, and Baruch Hashem, but I had one child that was extremely difficult, and we went through a lot of challenges with him. And that's why I do the work I do today, which is now energy work. And I specialize actually in marriage and in energy work. It's a very niche specialty. But the reason why I got into this was because of the challenges I went with my son, which almost ruined my marriage. Really did. And I have my daughter here to vouch for it. But it was really, really hard what we went through. And we're probably about 100 different doctors, 5 pounds of medical records, trying to figure out what is wrong with our son. And it wasn't until we got into energy work where we really started seeing that that's where some of the challenges that we were having started to clear up for him. So I got into energy work. I used to be a court reporter. I got out of that. And then I got into doing this work right around the time when Corona hit, literally just hit. And I was already doing biofeedback and different kinds of healing modalities. And a lot of these people were coming home and they were having issues now with their marriage. So that's kind of how I sort of started getting involved with marriages, going through my own challenges as well, because with my son, my husband and I were not on the same page at all on about anything, especially not how to deal with our son's medical issues. I was more holistic. He was more medical. He thought for sure he has to be medicated. I'm like, for sure he doesn't. So we also had 2 really bitter separations. Going through that, I saw like how fragile marriages can be, and how when people have challenges with children and basically any kind of challenge, how it could just eat away at the fiber of a marriage and how it's so easy for that special intimacy, even if you have it, for it to basically just vanish if you're not really careful. And so many people this generation have challenging children, they have challenging situations with their marriage. So it was just a combination of working on over 100 Corona patients that were not really supposed to be coming home. They all were on ventilators, almost died. They came home. And now suddenly they had all kinds of intimacy issues because the Corona is known for going through as an energy disruptor and just shutting down systems. So whether it's, it's the lungs, or if it's the, it's the sex organs, or it's the brain, or whatever. But a lot of these people that would come home, they weren't able to perform anymore. And I figured out that, wow, through energy work, we could actually reverse it for them. So before I knew it, like first it was the Corona, and then suddenly everyone was calling me for their marital issues. Oh, can you fix my husband? Oh, can you fix this? Can you fix that? So kind of catapulted me into this whole energy world and sexual issues, kind of, if you want to say, because the medical world has nothing to do with these people. They don't know what to tell them. They don't know what to say. I'm like, sorry, basically your sex life is over because you got Corona. And what we found is through the energy work is that it's not over. And in fact, a lot of sexual issues are energy based for the most part, because think about it like this. When Hashem created man, he created him in his image, right? Hashem doesn't actually have a physical image. He has an energetic image, right? That we were created him male and female. He created them, right? So we see just from that sexual energy is an energy. It's energy. It's not a physical thing you can see, you can touch. It's something that you actually manifest, and it's going to flow, or it's just not going to flow. That's just how it works. So you have female and male energy, and they're supposed to sort of flow together like this. Hashem created us for pleasure. He created us to give us ultimate pleasure. So everything in the world that he gave us gives us pleasure, including intimacy. So we know that a man is obligated and charged with the mitzvah ona. Okay, so the title of the book, or of the lecture today, is called Own Your Ona. Why did I pick that title? Because mitzvah's ona, even though the man is charged with this mitzvah, which is bringing his wife joy, pleasure, giving her time, it also is incumbent upon the woman to allow her husband to do that. And this is where things can go really off the rails pretty fast. A lot of women come in like I was, sort of shut down, like, oh my gosh, put the fear of heaven into me, that, oh my gosh, I'm afraid to do the wrong thing. Don't touch me, don't do that. Or the guys come in and it's the same problem. The guys also have been, given the strictest of the strict. And I deal with a lot of Satmar. Somehow got into the with Satmar group, and they just keep referring. So I deal with a lot of their situations that are going on. Although I really see, like, across the board, everybody. But the thing is that there's just some patterns that I started seeing within certain groups, and then I realized I thought it was just them, but it's not. It's actually everywhere, and doesn't matter which community I speak to, everyone seems to have the same problem, which we're going to get into just now. But before we start, also just wanted to say this class is dedicated to my mom's yahrzeit coming up, to Shana Basma Moshe Shar. May her soul have an aliyah in Gan Eden. And my mother should be getting a lot of nachos from this, because she gave me the courage to be fearless and do the right thing. Okay. And so this type of a class is a little bit tricky, because there's a whole sect of Judaism that thinks a class like this is just not serious. I promise you, I know that's true. How? Because last year, Hanan Feldbaum, she's from the Hasidic community, she attempted to put together a ladies' summit, 14 intimacy experts, okay? And we were going to go live. The Hasidic network that she was doing it on pulled it. They pulled it. They had so many people complaining, oh, we don't want people to do this. This is not sneeze for women to do it. And I was like, seriously? They were the most beautiful lectures, and I would encourage you to listen to them. It was pure, sweet, nothing vulgar, nothing in there that anybody could object to. And anybody that listened to these lectures walked away with such a beautiful attitude towards what intimacy is supposed to be. We don't get this, unfortunately. We actually can get the opposite. And we feel like there's some kind of a shame that's involved with this. So let's just quickly, sorry, a couple other things I wanted us to say is I wanted to also thank Hashem for allowing me to do this work, because honestly, I feel like I have one of the best jobs on the planet. Also wanted to thank Rabbi Marmer for being brave enough to host this initial. And so, yeah, so we spoke about the title, and the man is actually in his marriage contract is charged with a couple things. Number one, he's charged with providing his wife with food, clothing, shelter, and mitzvahs ona, which is sexual rights, sexual mitzvah, right? A lot of women are like, it's fine, I don't need it, you can keep your mitzvah. And that is where we know something is really, really wrong. So I realized that we need to learn how to empower women in this area, okay? Because this is where it's really at. If a woman can understand that if she can embrace this mitzvah properly, that energy, which is the most powerful energy on the planet, men will die for it. Every community on the planet is trying to shut women down, trying to put it like, look at Afghanistan. They're so like nervous about the energy somehow escaping. So they're trying to like shut women down in every single way. We are the only religion that I know of where they embrace a woman's sexuality in a serious way. They be serious about it when you're with your husband. Like enjoy, right? I like to think about intimacy in terms of preparing it and getting it to where it needs to be. It's like making challah. Okay, I'm a terrible challah baker. My daughter Esther, she was a challah baker. All my kids actually bake challah. I never really could make challah, and I've never really understood why. And you'll see why making challah is similar to intimacy for a woman. Okay, so you need a couple of things, a couple of key ingredients. Number one, you need to have the right ingredients. You also need yeast. The yeast is what I call the activator. My mistake was the yeast. I would put the water a little too hot and it would kill the yeast. I didn't know that. So I'm making my challah and I'm like sitting there and I'm waiting for hours and I'm looking at this thing. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? I'm just not a baker. I decided that's it. I can't make it. My kids made it. Until one day someone said, Mommy, it's too hot. You're like, you're killing your yeast. I'm like, killing my yeast? Like, what are you talking about? Oh yeah, you can kill your yeast. I'm like, okay. So think about it like this. An activator is what a woman needs, okay, to get her aroused. Before she even gets to foreplay, before she even gets to the bedroom, she needs something to activate that sexual energy, getting it moving. Because otherwise we're so busy with all the details of the children and the housework and this and that, and we also work. And then the husband's like, you want to be together? We're like, no. He's like, so we got to like slow down. We got to activate that sexual energy within us before we even start. And that has to be outside the bedroom. Okay, so that's step one. So now you're going to be with your husband tonight, right? So you got to get yourself in the mood, right? So think about like getting ready for Shabbos, right? What do? Go shopping, buy the best food, you set the table, get it ready. You think about what am I going to do to make this a beautiful Shabbos, right? So you do the same thing. If you're going to be with your husband tonight, you think about it. Okay, so what can I wear? Make myself beautiful. Don't go in the shower at 12 o'clock at night. From 6 o'clock, you're going to be together. Try to make this happen. Put on something nice. Make yourself smell good. Same thing with the guys. Make sure your husband, he comes with his nails are cut and, whatever it is that you like that he has. So those come like the ingredients. But then we have what's called the foreplay, right? Which is the foreplay, which means before you start, there's certain things that we're going to get into as to what is necessary for a woman to get aroused, for her to be able to actually, feel comfortable to receive her husband. And we're going to actually talk about this. But before we get into this in details, I want to do what's called a manifestation mindset, okay? And I want us to all write down. I want you to put a big circle on the paper that you have. And I want you to write you and your husband, like a little picture of the two of you. And I want you to think about, when you think about your husband and you think about intimacy, is it a positive experience? Is it something that you think about in a positive way, that you like, wow, I can't wait to have that delicious challah, right? The challah, it's so yummy. You smell it, you can visualize it. It tastes so delicious. It's gavaldic, right? Intimacy, believe it or not, is supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be something you look forward to, you can visualize, you can think about it. But if it's not, there's something that's blocking you. Some of these things are energy-based problems. Some of them are all kinds of things. We're going to get into that in the nuts and bolts of what could go wrong. But just to kind of paint a picture as to what is sort of the overall goal. So the overall goal, I also included a book, a free ebook. It's called The Pinnacle of Pleasure. And in the email on the very bottom, there is a link to this book. And it's an excellent book. By the way, there's lots of books. Here's another book here called Kedusha Sabayis by Rabbi Goldberg. Sorry, by Rabbi Goldstein. It's quite thick, quite comprehensive, quite eye-opening. He literally goes through every possible situation that could come up, which is quite complicated. And he goes through the most lenient all the way to the strictest of the strict, and explains how we got here. And he doesn't really give an opinion which way he thinks, but this is where it can get a little complicated, is if you are listening to this class and you were taught by the strictest of the strict, you might have an issue with some of the things I'm going to say, because I'm teaching mainstream Judaism. I'm not teaching extreme, okay? Mainstream. Very important to understand the difference, because there are extreme views on intimacy. It's more Christian based. It's like more like fear based and no pleasure for the woman, and just like get it over with, minimize it and get it over. And it's very technical and extremely not pleasurable for women. And a lot of my clients, unfortunately, experience that kind of intimacy. And so I'm not here to create problems. I'm here to create peace. But if your husband is not on board with you enjoying intimacy, then you might just want to hang up right now, because I don't want to create a problem for you where you go to your husband and your husband goes to the Rav and the Rav's like, no, we don't hold like that. So this is the thing. People often ask me questions. I say, listen, follow your husband. If your husband's God-fearing and he has a good rabbi that you approve of, that you think has a good seichel on his brain, just follow him. Whatever he says, do that. It's fine, as long as he has your best interest in heart and he wants to please you. Okay, so I'm just going to read an excerpt out of this parameters of the mitzvah. And this is a black and white, basic halacha. Every man learns it. It's part of the Gemara. It's part of the Masorah. Men learn it. So they can't say this is not true. This is basic halacha of mitzvah ona. Okay, so the mitzvah of ona is for a man to bring pleasure and joy to his wife as best as he can, and to achieve complete sexual union with her lovingly and with abundant joy. Every man must fulfill this mitzvah as frequently as his physical stamina and profession allows. For most, this means twice a week. A woman too has a mitzvah to couple her husband and to enjoy him, which means she's supposed to enjoy this. Okay, the more she enjoys her sexual relationship, the greater the mitzvah. Their sexual union must be very joyful and pleasurable. According to the mitzvah is called Simchas Ona, the joy of natural sexual union. And abstaining from it is deemed a type of torture, whether it is for the husband or the wife. And by the way, many men are tortured by their wives because the wives just don't want to be with them, because it is not fun for them. And so they avoid, they reject, and they may just give up. Okay, so the mitzvah Ona is independent of the mitzvah of procreation and is fulfilled through marital sexual relations, even when they cannot lead to pregnancy, such as when she's pregnant or nursing or after menopause. So the central element of this mitzvah is for the husband to bring complete joy to his wife, to the point where her joy and pleasure climax in orgasm. It's black and white. That's the goal. Orgasm. I have met many women, 8 women, and just in the last year, that never had an orgasm with their husband. They don't even know what I'm talking about. and Baruch Hashem, they had their first orgasm with their husbands. And it wasn't because they couldn't, it was because nobody explained to them how. And it's kind of complicated, not on purpose, it's just the way it is. So we're going to get into it. It's kind of like that recipe of challah. If you know what you're doing, no problem. It works. But if you have no clue or you're missing that little details, then it just is not going to happen. You don't know why. Okay, so to bring the woman to climax in orgasm, short of this, their sexual relations may result in frustration. For the lead up to orgasm, it builds up physical and psychological tension that is blissfully released upon orgasm. And if she is not experiencing orgasm, her tensions and frustration will generally remain. This mitzvah is also derech eretz, the way of the world, since every healthy person yearns for pleasurable sexual union, the greatest palatable physical pleasure that a person can experience in this world. It is thus clear that when the Torah commanded the mitzvah ona, it means reaching orgasm, the peak of pleasure that people yearn for. If a husband or wife does not feel that yearning, they must try to heal themselves. You have to try to heal this, okay? That means there's something wrong, right? So that their sexual union will be joyful for both of them. This includes embracing, kissing, caressing, anywhere that is pleasurable, any way that is enjoyable, okay? And the mitzvah is proceeded gradually from the areas of touch to pleasant erogenous zones until reaching the clitoris, which we'll get into the anatomy, where the touch produces the most arousal and pleasure. And every woman should know her body parts so she can teach her husband how to do this. There is nothing shameful about this. I promise you, this is his mitzvah, but men don't know. If they're not taught, and you're not taught, it's like the blind leading the blind, and basically no one gets anywhere. Since every person is different, part of the mitzvah is for the couple to openly discuss what gives them pleasure, and the husband should ask his wife how he can increase her joy, and she'll respond and open up to him. Again, this is in the book that I sent you, the ebook, it's just the first chapter. I'm trying to get through it. We're just skipping some parts of it. So for most couples, it's best for the husband to try to enable his wife to reach orgasm before he comes inside of her. Why is that? So there is concern that when he's done, he'll be drained of his desire, unable to bring her joy as he should. It is noted that during the past, apparently, in most circumstances, women could achieve orgasm during intercourse, which means that during intercourse, women would be able to actually release for some reason, and nobody seems to know why. That is not possible for a majority of women. I'll take questions at the end, okay? So nowadays, for various reasons, many women do not reach orgasm during intercourse, only through manual stimulation of the clitoris. And in this case, this is how to perform the mitzvah, okay? Before he comes inside of her. It has always been the virtue of Torah scholars and the Torah-oriented Jew that they bring joy to their wives as proper, okay? The Gemara says that a man may do whatever he wishes with his wife. He shouldn't be fearful. He may engage in sexual intercourse with her in any manner he wishes, but he not concern himself with these restrictions. As an allegory, if he likes meat that comes from a butcher, he can, if he wants to eat it with salt, he may eat it. If he wants to eat it with roasted, he may eat it roasted. If he wants to eat it cooked. It's so wonderful to think that we are compared like that. But the point is to say that don't worry, just enjoy. Like the point is, the whole point of this is we're supposed to enjoy it. Okay. And so I was talking earlier about how comparing the mitzvah ona to making freshly baked challah, right? So there's nothing more gavaldic, right, than enjoying that. It's so fluffy and it's crusty on the outside, right? And this delights of good intimacy begins with craving her husband, right? We're supposed to crave our husband. The mitzvah is he's supposed to be with her as much as she needs. That's the mitzvah. That's the halacha. But what if she doesn't need it? She's like, I'm good, right? Not interested. this is where a big problem happens. And so men are like, she never wants to be with me. Like, she's always rejecting me. And it really creates a lot of resentment. So, so we were talking about how the challah takes hours from beginning to end, right? You want to have to put the effort in if you want to get the delightful challah. It doesn't just happen like that. Okay, so now that we understand the big picture, let's talk about what could possibly go wrong. You had a question?
Yes, I was just curious, the resources.
Yeah, the sources are all in that book that I sent. Okay, so you could just look, they have all the sources in it, and I have a whole book here filled with sources. Okay. Yeah, I know that was coming out. My husband was like, looking, because we all want the sources. We want to do the right thing, right? This book here, but this is called Traditions of Bias. It's got tons of sources. Sure, it's a great book. A little confusing though, because you go from one extreme to the other, and you're like, but wait, it just basically minhas, certain people have taken on certain strictnesses, and it gets a little confusing. And when you have one college teacher teaching one way and a husband teacher another, like I had with my husband, it's a disaster because they're really not on the same page. Okay, so let's talk about what could go wrong. Before couples even get to first base, what could go wrong? So there could be body shaming. A woman doesn't feel comfortable. There could be sexual trauma, molestation from men or women, by the way. I just was speaking to a guy today that was sexually molested before he got married. Not by his wife, but by somebody. Conception trauma. What is conception trauma? Means that when a husband and wife come together and it's not with love, they say the woman's rejecting her husband and he's feeling that, but she's with him either way. That almost puts like a stamp on that egg, on that embryo of rejection and sexual trauma. And that child may grow up and have her own sexual issues with her husband, independent of anything else, just because she inherited that from her mom. So what I'm saying to you, ladies, it's so important. We don't realize, like, a lot of the issues that we have are from our ancestors, the trauma that they have gone through. We have no idea. I don't know. I just can't orgasm no matter what I do. I try. I check them. I'm like, I'm getting conception trauma is on your energy checkup. I'm like, conception trauma. That means that when this lady's parents treated her, something was going on. Maybe she was feeling abused. She felt raped by her husband. I mean, a lot of women say, I feel raped by my husband. I'm not interested. And he forces himself because she's always saying no. And if you create a baby, that's called conception trauma. That and the Gemara talks about, by the way, all of the things that can go wrong with your children when the husband and wife are not on the same page and not in this joyful space. We have the inherited sexual trauma. That means that maybe my mom or dad had gone through their own sexual trauma, which then got transferred onto the sperm or the egg. That can get also transferred to me. We have past life sexual trauma. We have OCD issues, people that are worried about checking and germs and kissing people and touching, and like they can't handle being touched. It just makes them crazy. We have mikvah anxiety, the fact that you've got to check yourself from head to toe and someone's going to be looking at you. Seeing and hearing perverted things like porn and that kind of stuff, depending on, I mean, there's lots of people in the Hasidic world that get exposed to this stuff. And then we have the college teachers that, sometimes they're well-meaning, but they don't realize they say things that really can scare women and make them very fearful of doing the wrong thing. Then, so now let's just talk about first night. Okay, first night after the chuppah. Women have told me one story after the next, how they feel raped, violated, painful intercourse that hurts, they feel tormented, they feel shame, so much anger, feeling trapped, confused, unloved, abused, feeling violated, revolted, frustrated, pressured, forced, left confused, crying, shaking, left even turned on. Some women actually were turned on and disappointed with no way to release. Fear, and then they have to wait 2 weeks, fear of making a mistake. Now, this is something that's really a wild concept, okay? I'm just throwing this at you because this is something that I had discovered just in the last 6 months. We have something called disturbances. disturbances. Disturbances are like in the spirit world, the spiritual world. Okay. Now, the reason why a man has to guard his grit is for this, because the holy seed is coveted, and the entire spirit world is attracted to the holy seed. So that's why they have to be super careful not to release one drop, because it can feed the spirit world. And this is just right out of, basic Torah that men learn. Disturbances can be on the male organ, on the penis. And if that happens, it will hurt. It will feel like a woman is getting stabbed every single time she has intercourse with her husband. I had 3 cases like that just this last few months. One of them is our students, and she's in her 60s. And when she heard this concept, she's like, Rochel, I think I have this problem with my husband. She checked, because she knows how to energy check it. Sure enough, he did. He had inherited disturbances on his organ. She said from the very first day, she thought there was something wrong with her. She's been going from doctor to doctor. She just gave up. She just takes, tries to like just suck it up, but it always hurts. She took the disturbances off. Guess what? It doesn't hurt anymore. She's like, I can't believe this. This is unreal. Now, finally, after all these years, she's able to enjoy intimacy with her husband. Had another lady, same thing. Married 10 years, loves her husband to pieces. She's able to orgasm before. The second he comes inside, she feels like he's stabbing her. So he basically just like put the very, very, very tip in. It's not a dilator situation. She's been to pelvic floor. She's been here for her whole married life. She doesn't know what the heck's wrong with her. So she heard about the work that we do. So I checked her. I'm like, this is not your stuff. This is coming from your husband. Same thing. We cleared him off. Most of the problem is solved now. She said it's so much better. It doesn't hurt her like it used to. And one case after the next. So it's something we have to look into. This is purely an energy-based problem that needs to be addressed with energy work. This is nothing that's got to do with going to a medical doctor. They're going to look at you like they're nuts if you even bring this up. I just bring this up because there's a lot of women that suffer with really painful intercourse for no reason. They don't understand what's wrong. It's not normal. And if you're one of those women that it's so sore for you, we would have to look into, is it actually yours or is it your husband's? And again, it doesn't mean you do anything wrong. It just means that could be what's going on. The other thing that this lady told me, one of my students, is she said that she found out that his semen actually had inherited disturbances from a past generation. I was like, wow. It gets really wild when you start getting into the energy work of how things can manifest for a person. So we have inherited, past life, basically all kinds of different ways, conception, all kinds of different ways that things can get transferred on. Because we're mostly energetic beings, we have to look at it from an energy perspective. So there could be something that you develop, something called triggers. A trigger could be from previous abuse with a man or a woman. It also could just be the concept of this whole concept just triggers you really, really badly. That's a pure energy-based problem as well. Just the thoughts of this whole concept can be extremely revolting to a lot of women when they hear about it. And sometimes it just doesn't get better if it isn't a good experience for them. The other problem is that sometimes, again, the husband or the kala, they have to have they have to be on the same page in terms of the teachers. So I had this one Satmar couple come to us, and she was extremely frustrated with her husband. She was a fully sexual woman. She had experimented with her, her own sexual pleasure before she got married. She couldn't wait to get married. And they were so cute together. But her complaint was he refuses to touch me below my waist, which means basically no foreplay, nothing. And he can't hold it long enough for her to get anywhere, because the average woman, it takes about 15 minutes from the time she gets stimulated till the time she releases. Okay, we're going to get into that timing of it. Usually by the time this guy's just getting ready to release, she's just getting turned on. So there's a lot of logistical issues that happen. But so she was frustrated beyond, and she found herself just trying to please herself afterwards. And she's like, there's something wrong with this picture. This is not what I was taught. So he said, well, I was taught you can't pass below the waist. So we had him re-educated through a Sotner custom teacher in Williamsburg. He sat with him for 3 hours. And he calls me after, the teacher calls me after, and he's like, Rochel, you know what he said to me? We went through everything. He said, what else do they lie to me about? Sad, really sad. But that's what this guy's reaction was like. Why are they lying to us? Like, why are you doing this to us? Why are you causing so much misery? So Baruch Hashem, now they're on track and they're doing amazing. You know, and that was a summer couple. There was another story that I heard of a woman, and she's a psychologist, a beautiful woman. And she came to me, she's been married for like 10 years. And she told me that she has never forgiven her husband from their first night, because she said that he was taught that you just got to push it in and you cannot stop until you finish, because otherwise she's going to scream and push you off. And then you won't be able to finish, which is probably true. But the way he did it was so forceful, and her hymen wasn't breaking. It actually ripped, like it was so painful. She said, I feel like he literally just took a knife and stabbed me. And she said, I just like the whole thing, she just never ever was able to move it on. So this poor woman had so much trauma trapped in her vaginal walls, and we had to go in there and we had to like literally clear it out, because every time she was with him, she just cringed, she just like froze, and her whole vagina just locked up instead of releasing. So of course, and relaxing, of course she wasn't enjoying this at all. For her, it was torment. And they cared about each other, but it was a really, really sad situation. So what we do is we go in there, we just energetically clear out all the trauma that was in there. And then eventually she was able to get to the stage where at least it wasn't painful. But, you know, eventually get her to the stage where she could actually enjoy it with him. So this is the thing, is that college teachers really need to follow up the next day. This is where I think that the ball is getting dropped. Okay, they're doing a great job in terms of, you know, okay, all the preparations before, but then the couple has their experience, and who is like checking in with them to see what happened, everything go okay, and he comes and, you know, to let her know, don't worry, it's always a little sore the first time, but it's gonna get better, it's gonna be amazing, you're gonna love it. You know, what I find some of the college teachers themselves don't even know how to have an orgasm, I think, is part of the problem. They don't even know what to tell the women, and that is part of the issue. By the way, on Connie Felderbaum Summit that I was a part of, almost every single woman started the class by telling their story of their awful experience with their college teacher, and how it was so painful for them and so awful. And they felt hopeless, and they felt scared, and what the heck is this? I didn't know it was going to be this bad. And how they, you know, all went through their journey with their husbands, and now they have fantastic intimacy. They're able to have full, beautiful intimacy with their husbands. And then they decided to get into this as a profession, because, you know, it's like, wow, like when you go through that and you see how bad it is, it's like, if you want to go tell your story, you want to share that with other women. So it's very important that to make sure that, you know, if you are a newlywed, that you have somebody that you trust that has your best interest at heart, to make sure that to like damage control. So again, we want to be mainstream, we don't want to be extreme. And I'm going to tell you another crazy story. I have tons of stories. I have a whole book I could write on. I did actually write a book called College and College Recipes for a Yummy Marriage. Still in the process of trying to finish it. Anybody wants a copy, I'll be happy to send it to you. But basically, I bring a lot of these stories in. But this one story really sticks out, and this was just so extreme. But it's common, actually. And it just blows your mind that in the 21st century, this kind of story actually can happen. But actually, one of my clients, his son was getting married. He was so excited. He was crazy in love with this girl, very cute girl, very nice family. And I was watching the Zoom wedding, and he was just glowing. He's holding her hand. He was like, oh my gosh, he was like, he just won the lottery. Next morning, I get a call from the dad. It's a little rough. The girl just like froze. She will not kiss him, touch him, didn't feel comfortable doing anything. He's like, okay, fine, give her a few nights. I think the third night, she gives him a pill, Viagra, to take. He didn't know. My dad takes this, taking it because he couldn't get excited because she was just like so like there was like nobody home. And he was petrified to do the wrong thing. So he actually was not feeling any chemistry with her at this stage. So he wasn't able to get excited. So what happened? So he takes this Viagra, he gets totally turned on, unnaturally, of course. And he's like, okay, great. And so she won't let him do anything. So she's like, okay, fine. So let's go. She felt so much pain because she wouldn't let him do anything. She pushed him off, wouldn't let him finish. Poor guy's now turned on, can't finish. She's crying. He's like, what the heck? So what ended up happening with that is she's like, this is not for me. I'm really not interested in staying this, like, marriage is not for me. I don't want anything to do with this. I don't like this. So they were going to call the girl back home. So they got a therapist involved and they wanted to like help her understand, like, you got to relax. You've got to let your husband do this. He had a really great Hassan teacher. We had him taught the best, but she's not cooperating. So she got educated about this whole concept. That night, the father of the Hassan got a call from the father of the bride. You guys should be put in harem. We don't allow our daughter to be defiled and to be treated like that. It is disgraceful for you to think that our daughter is going to let your son do that to her. Oh yeah, oh yeah. And there is a whole sect of Judaism that believes that there's no touching below the waist. It is not sneeze for women to orgasm. It is not appropriate for women to go into that space. It's animalistic. You are, whatever you're doing is sin if you do that. So they were going to call her home. They said, sorry, we don't allow women. We don't allow women. Like, what the heck is this? This poor guy went into such a deep, like, sadness. I remember I talked to him, he was crying on the phone. I'm like, what is this? What is going on here? Baruch Hashem, they got their Rav involved, and the Rav said to the parents of the bride, you need to stay out. You cannot micromanage what goes down in your daughter's bedroom. It is going to ruin their marriage, and this marriage is not going to survive. It's crazy, but this is what's going on. And we hear people are married for like a week, 2 weeks, a month, divorce, next. Like, what? And this is what's going on. It's crazy. Really, really. And if I hadn't gone through blow by blow, I wouldn't believe that it actually is happening in this generation. So now, Baruch Hashem, they're married with a kid and whatever, one on the way. And he said, it's just very technical. It just is not at all what he was so looking forward to experiencing with his wife. She just, is just very not into it at all. And that's very sad because of the whole programming that she had. So it's important to understand that there's a lot of women that are just tolerating really bad intimacy for no reason. Okay, intimacy is supposed to be wonderful. It's supposed to be pleasurable. It's supposed to be something you look forward to be with your husband. Now, let's assume that you like to be with your husband, but it seems to hurt still sometimes. Yeah, I had a lady, when she came to me, she was done with her husband. She was so finished. She couldn't handle him anymore. She hated his guts, actually. And she said, it was so painful to be with him. Intimacy really hurt. She said, when I first married him, I was crazy about it. I wanted to be with him all the time. And he was quite abusive. So all that abuse got stuck in her vaginal wall. And every time he'd try to be with her, it would hurt. It wouldn't feel good. So she had grudges in her vaginal wall. So we had to take the grudges out. She had to do forgiveness for her husband. He had to promise not to keep doing that to her. And then she was good to go. She was able to release with him again. So sometimes we have these emotions and we get so frustrated with our husbands about different things that they do, or they're selfish or whatever, that will get stuck in our vaginal wall and we will not be able to release. So that is very important to understand. And it's also sad because the husbands don't want to hurt their wives. If they make their wives cry or they see that they're rejecting them all the time, the husbands are going to start feeling despondent as well. I did speak once to a husband ready, who basically, is one of the big rebbeim that people go to. And I asked him this question through a translator. I said, why don't you teach your men about pleasing their wives in the bedroom? I just wanted to throw it out there to get his, like, what would he say? No idea what he would say. What do you think he would say?
What was the question?
The question is, I asked a Hasidic Rebbe why they don't train their men how to please their wives. So many men have no idea. Men have told me, I didn't know that a woman can orgasm, never heard of such a thing. Like, really? So they think it's all about them. So what he told me was that a lot of women are so shut down like this girl, okay? And if the men have an expectation that the woman is going to be able to orgasm, and she doesn't let him touch or doesn't want or feels embarrassed or whatever, or can't for whatever the reason, it's going to create more problems than it solves by teaching the men this. He said, they will figure it out. I'm like, or they won't, it's like, so it's kind of, it's confusing, it's like, whoa, like, so at least explain it to them, but it's a possibility, that this could happen. And then, if she can't, then help her understand why not. So that's important to understand that. Okay, so let's talk about what's called the activator. Okay, pre-foreplay. Okay, this includes schmoozing, right? Schmoozing with your husband, feeling connected. Now, this is not the time that you start venting and releasing all of your issues that you have with your husband, the grudges. Okay, you do this the day before. If you're going to go to the next route, you do it the day before. Okay, you sit it down, my darling, I want to be with you tomorrow night, and I'm holding some grudges in my heart. Can you please listen? Okay, now, so funny. I was listening to this comedian. She's saying, if you want your husband to really love you forever, don't talk to him. Don't talk to him, because women, they talk and they talk and they talk, and then they just tune out. But anyway, the point is that the worst thing you can do, I know women are like, I can't be with him, I just have to vent my heart. Well, fine, but don't do it on the day you're going to be with him, because it will kill the passion. He will feel totally disconnected. You might feel like, you're criticizing him. Better to do it the day before. And I always like to have couples like have Wednesday night venting once a week. Okay, we sit down. There's a way to do it. It's not in a way that's accusatory, that I'm having this problem with you. I'd really love to come up with a problem-solving way of how we're going to deal with this issue. And then the husband basically will repeat back what he heard. Okay, so I hear that we have this problem, and this is the issue, and this is what you want me to do to solve the problem. Did I get that right? Yeah. Okay, great. Good. Anything else? Right. Okay. So then that's off in terms of, I don't have to now talk to my husband on the day we're going to be together. Okay. So it's a very important point to keep that in mind. This should not be a bashing session of what he did wrong. Okay. Because the biggest turnoff for a man is when a woman starts criticizing her husband. It really is. And by the way, I've had quite a few men come to me that have, intimacy issues. They cannot get hard with their wives. And I check them. I'm like, ooh, I'm getting tons of rejection, tons of criticism. And he's like, yep, all day, all night, all she does is moan and complain to me. They lose their interest in their women. So women, don't criticize your husbands. If you have to say it, think about it before you say it. Very gently, very softly, coming in from like, more like a problem solving kind of a situation. I have a whole class on how to do this. But this is the time, like you want to schmooze with him a little bit, you want to relax, be playful, be fun, creating a loving environment with some candles, some music, wine if you like to drink wine, and exchange your emotions, positive emotions with each other. Okay, this is all what I call the activator. Okay, you're getting each other relaxed, women take about a half an hour to get into this stage, just to like help them transition from motherhood to lover, okay? Then we get into the kissing mode. Now, things with kissing, there could be bad breath. A lot of women complain, he slobbers all over me. I can't, right? They feel consumed by their husbands. You've got to discuss this with your husband. Say, sweetie, I can't, I don't like this. You have that breath and I feel whatever, so these are things you have to discuss, but it's best not to discuss it the same night you're going to be together. Okay. Some people, they have OCD with germs, like they just don't like being kissed, or they can't stand the thought of exchanging germs. But we like to kiss like lovers. Lovers are supposed to kiss. That's just the way it is. That's how Shem made. That's what lips are for, right? So we want to embrace the passion, and this is all before the foreplay starts, right? So you do this outside the bedroom. Usually that's the best place. You do some slow dancing to some music. And you always just want to get into the mood. You got to set the mood. Okay, just like you're setting the mood for Shabbos, right? I like to get ready an hour before Shabbos. And before Shabbos an hour, you get in the mood of Shabbos. Okay, wrap it up, light candles up. Okay. No, we're not in the mood of Shabbos. We're still like spinning 5,000 miles an hour. No, an hour before you calm down, you get into the space, I'm done with headspace. Intimacy should be the same way. You should prepare yourself to be intimate with your husband. Okay, don't just fall into bed after dealing with the dishes. Scent, perfume, and again, you get yourself ready. Put perfume for yourself also, right? You put the lingerie on if you wear lingerie. Put it on for yourself. Essential oils are amazing. They have these oils that you can massage into yourself. When you smell them, they help you relax, help you feel calm. They can actually ignite certain sexual energy within you. Clothing, be playful. Getting the lighting just right with the candle in your room, set the tone. And then, if you want, you could caress each other with some massage oil. You got to feel comfortable with the touch. What if your husband doesn't like to be touched? That's a problem. Usually people that don't like to be touched, you've got to come up with a workaround for them. You got to figure out what he likes. So this is called non-sexual touch, right? Non-sexual touch. This is like the smelling of the challah. Okay, this is like before you actually get into it. The salivary glands are going. Okay, it's something called the Bartholomew gland. Okay, and this is in the vagina. It registers this natural lubrication to prepare the vagina for intercourse. Okay, this needs to happen before the sexual touch starts. Okay. Because if not, she might find herself dry and it just doesn't ever get ignited. So that's often the main cause of dryness for women. And don't say it's because of your menopause. No, there's plenty of women in their 50s, 60s, 70s that are still enjoying fabulous intimacy, intercourse, and that gland works just fine. Right? So it's got nothing, or it may have nothing to do with that specifically.
No,
I have
Not,
found, what's the word? What it's called, the Bartholomew gland, BTHO. Okay, this is a little gland that makes lubrication. Now, I have found that people have blocks in that gland, actually, that block it from producing the secretion. So we can clear that out energetically. Sometimes we need to massage it, or like actually, like almost like a lymphatic kind of massage. You go really hard back and forth. And sometimes that's all you need to do to get it to work. It almost can get like, the thing, you don't use it, you lose it. It actually can get like almost like a little rock in there, and the stuff cannot get out. Sometimes what happens is that men think of women's sex organs as like buttons. So they start punching. Like it's too hard, like stop, we need soft, gentle touch, right? So sometimes their nails are sharp. And instead of registering as pleasure, we're registering it as pain. So the number one mistake that I find that a lot of women experience is that men, they jump right into sexual touch before the woman is even activated. Okay, and this is a very important thing to explain to you. But I will let you know when I'm ready to be touched sexually. I know that may sound kind of like, you gotta be like so specific, but sometimes they just don't get it. They're so eager to get started. You walk in the door, let's go here. Can we just like calm down for 1 second here? So you gotta explain to your husband, sweetheart, listen, I need like a half an hour just to like chill with you before you start touching me all over my body in that way, okay? Because I'm not like you, ready to go, okay? Guys don't need that woman. They're just ready all the time, most of the time. Okay, so this is a very important thing to understand. This is what a woman needs. It's not optional for most women, okay? A lot of men, they just go straight to touching the breasts and the vaginal area that lead to penetration, and they just want to get things moving along as quickly as possible. This often will turn a woman off. And they will never be actually get turned on at all because the whole activation phase was skipped. And by the way, if it's skipped, it will actually take a woman way longer to get turned on. Because if she's starting at -0 and he starts trying to get her turned on by foreplay and she's not turned on, it actually could take twice as long to get her turned on, believe it or not. So it's really, really worth it to take that time and invest. And you can do it yourself as well by your intentions, setting your own intentions with, like I said, you're putting your makeup on, you're putting your lingerie on, or your perfume, or whatever you're going to do. That will help you get into the mindset as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the basic scenarios that go down for most couples. Do you have an issue? Okay, great. So let's talk about the best case scenario. Okay, so they're really in sync, they have great quality intimacy, everyone's turned on, everyone's activated, they're ready for intercourse. And assuming that the woman can have a vaginal orgasm, which by the way, most women cannot. There's a couple of different ways a woman can have an orgasm. Number one is through actual intercourse, assuming she's fully turned on. Another one is with a clitoris, which we are going to get into that at some stage. I'm going to show you the anatomy of this. Most women need clitoral stimulation for about 15 minutes, maybe longer, could be up to an hour. Okay, but again, if she's activated enough, it should take around 15 minutes. Okay, so everyone's turned on, assuming that he can hold it long enough. And again, and a lot of men, they're not able to. After a minute or two, they've released, and that basically it's over now. So then what's going to happen? So if assuming she can have a vaginal release and he can hold it long enough, and they both turn on, then they will both have an orgasm together, ending in pure bliss, connection, relaxation, and fall asleep snuggled up together. Okay, many couples have that kind of experience, and that is the best case scenario. But I would assume that most ladies that are listening to this course don't have that experience. That's why you're listening. Okay, so let's go now to the second best case scenario. The husband will stimulate his wife's clitoris, which is above the vagina. It's not inside the vagina, by the way, until she orgasms, okay? Before he comes inside. Assuming he can wait that long. The biggest complaint I get from men is that they're too
Sorry
excited.
for interrupting. Can you make it louder? It's very quiet.
There's to make it louder. Okay, can you hear? Is that better?
I'll find out.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm trying to speak as loudly as I can. Okay, so anyway, so the husband will attempt to stimulate his wife's clitoris until she releases and then come inside afterwards. Okay, that's the next best option. Or finish her afterwards with her clitoris. Okay. Now, I just want to tell you a couple of facts about female orgasm. There's a new study that was revealed. Exactly how long does the average woman take to get to orgasm? The magic number is 13 minutes and 46 seconds. This was a study published in the Journal of Sexual Medicine in February 2020. They used a stopwatch to measure the amount of time it took to reach climax. And I can't imagine that they actually did this study, but apparently they did. And it seems awkward, but for the sake of science, it revealed an eye-opening truth. For 8 weeks, a group of 645 heterosexual women from 20 countries documented each time they engaged in intimacy with their spouse. Researchers only included women that were in a monogamous relationship with the average age of 30. So the most important takeaway from this study was that penetrative vaginal sex was rarely the best way for a woman to climax. Only about 31% of women were able to climax that way. That means that about 60% of women needed some other form of preparation, such as clitoral stimulation. And by the way, there's another way also that women can have orgasm, and that is through the cervix, which is all the way deep inside. And if you can get there, it's a little deep, it's very hard to get, but you can actually have a very intense release like that as well. Many women come to the bedroom unaroused, right? They're starting at 0, while their husbands are fully ready to go. And it can take a woman just about a half an hour to relax from her busy day, to feel comfortable, to start igniting that flame. So if she's feeling negative emotions in her heart, like resentment or bitterness, or feeling pressure to start, she is unlikely going to get aroused at all. Okay, so I just found it was fascinating to understand this fact that a lot of women don't realize that it's just a given that men release within a minute or two, and they just assume I should too. It's not true. The women takes way longer and way more complicated in order to get her that. Okay, so it's very important to understand that a woman also needs time. So besides being activated and stimulated, she also needs time to get her to that space. And if she feels her husband's rushing her or getting bored, are you almost done? What's taking so long? What's wrong with you? It really can be a problem. So one of the issues, a big issue, this is the main issue that I get, is this is a very classic scenario. So the husband will attempt to stimulate his wife for a minute or two, right? He sees that she's getting turned on, she's getting wet or whatever, and he's getting very impatient. He's like, I'm getting too close, I gotta come, right? So she may be turned on, but he releases too quickly, and then he like just passes out next to her because he's finished, right? And she will often feel used. She'll feel really used. And not only that, her body will stop after a while getting turned on to him. That's the reality of what happened. It gets really ugly after a while, because the man is not fulfilling his Torah obligation of the mitzvahs ona, and it leaves this woman with this vacuum of negative energy towards her husband. And if this happens over and over again, eventually she's just not going to want to be with him anymore, except when she has to. By the way, the same thing happens to men, that if a woman is constantly rejecting him, you want to be together? No, always avoiding him, and oh, I'm busy, I'm tired, I have a headache. You just got to stop asking. So it's very important that you have scheduled intimacy. I always tell couples a couple times a week, make scheduled time for it. If you don't schedule it in, chances are it's just not going to happen. And that's a very important thing to understand. So pick whatever night it is. If it's going to be Friday night, if Friday night works for you, fine. So then make sure it happens on Friday night, and then pick 1 or 2 other times during the week. If you're gonna try to have a date night, one time at least a month, that you go out, you have a good time together, you have fun together, which should then end in intimacy at the end of that night. Okay, people that have a lot of little children, it's very, very difficult to carve that time out. You've got to find the time. Unless your parents to come babysit, go wait for a night to a hotel if you can, afford a babysitter. If you can do that, you just got to put that energy into your marriage, because if you don't, it's just going to go dry. It's going to get dry, and you're going to lose that connection that you have. It's an amazing, beautiful thing when you first meet, that beautiful passion that you have, but don't take it for granted, because that passion is a gift. And you've got to stoke it. You've got to keep it going. And it's the woman that's supposed to do that. And yes, the man's supposed to, he's charged with the mitzvah's own up, but it's the woman that has that power. She really does. So a lot of men, they complain that they have a very hard time getting excited with the wife because she just has no interest in being with him, right? She's always avoiding him and rejecting him. So now she's got to spend an hour just getting him turned on, when it should be the other way around, when he should be, busy stimulating her. She's now busy trying to stimulate him. So there are a lot of women that feel that they are just their husband's vessel. I've heard this over and over again. I just feel I'm his vessel. Okay, that means that I'm just there to receive, and that's it. And it's an awful feeling, and that's not at all what Judaism is about. It's not what it promotes. It's not the way it's supposed to be. So there are so many different types of scenarios and so many different pain points that women have when it comes to actually getting what I call to the finish line. Basically, it's so many things that can go wrong from A to Z. And so sometimes it's important just to, have a specialist that you can talk it over with, whether it's a sex therapist, although many people that come to me have gone to sex therapists. They're having sex, that's not the issue. It's the quality of sex, or they can't quite pinpoint what's wrong. Something's wrong, but they don't know exactly what's wrong. And, one of the things that we do, and I also teach a course on this, it's energy medicine, but we have a whole intimacy piece of it, because in my opinion, sexual energy is a very important piece of a person's life. So we have a whole list here of all the kinds of things that could possibly go wrong, and we also have here sexual issues, impotency, right? And some of them are, for sure, they could be fears, worries, emotional issues, sexual drives, sexual abuse, conception trauma, could be contracts, people make this contract, like whatever, they come in this world and maybe they were a nun in the previous life, who knows? And so they're just shut down, like they just can't go into that space. They can't allow them to relax, to relax. We have subconscious blocks, lack of sensation, sex hormone issues, attracted to the same sex, by the way. That is a big issue in this generation. The sperm and the egg produce no energy. Now, we also go into infertility. We have really good success with people because a lot of times, believe it or not, there is some kind of an energy incompatibility going on here. Sometimes men can't ejaculate. There's fear of ejaculation. They put the fear of God into them about releasing their sperm. And now it's like, now something with my wife, and like, especially who's OCD about it, it's not going to come out. So he has a very hard time relaxing. Sometimes there's grudges, previous life issues. They don't deserve, they don't feel like they deserve to enjoy. The person's not grounded in their body. We've had missing parts and pieces energetically for people being sexually abused. The person just checks out. Parts of them just literally break off energetically. We have phobias and fears. We have triggers and stressors. Now, one of the big work that we do is clearing triggers and stressors. What I'll do is I'll walk through with a woman from A to Z, all the different things that are going on with her husband, and she'll tell me what's coming up for her. So then, like, she'll visualize it, and then she'll say, okay, so I'm feeling this, or I'm feeling that, I'm feeling stressed, or I'm feeling anxious, or I'm feeling whatever. So we can clear it for them in real time as she's talking. And it's amazing. Then she and her husband, and all those issues just clear up. Sometimes there are need to control, right? The woman cannot, she feels like she has to control the situation. When you go into an orgasmic space, you cannot be in your head. It's almost like a rhythm. You've just got to like let go. So some women, they have a very hard time because they cannot let go. They just cannot relax. They might have energy blocks, traumas, violations, trapped emotions, low sex drive, trouble becoming aroused, trouble having orgasm, painful sex. There's all kinds of things. There's tons and tons of stuff that can go on as to why people have a difficult time with intimacy. So that's the basic introduction. I'm happy to take questions if anybody has any questions about what we said. We can go into the nitty-gritties of, how this whole process works with the anatomy. I'm going to take a little break first. If you feel this type of a topic is a little bit too much for you, you can, get off the line if you want. But so any questions coming in from that side?
No,
No?
people are actually praising you for being so open about it.
Okay, okay. Well, listen, I really do hope that, everybody who's on this call will be able to go and read the book that I put in the email. It's very beautifully written. And he just talks pretty straightforward, just like we're talking here, that this is a mitzvah, derisa. Okay, and one thing that's very important to understand is that the female clitoris, which again, I have a diagram, but I don't know if we're going to bring it out. It's like, it's a 3D diagram. We're going to take a break. Anybody that doesn't feel comfortable with it, you don't have to stay on the call. Okay, we're going to take a little break. We'll come back. But the point is that the clitoris, okay, is the exact same spot where a male penis is. So when a baby is, is being developed, it decides whether it's going to be a clitoris or a penis, okay? It has the exact same potential for orgasm. So you understand. So when Hashem is giving a woman a clitoris, he's assuming that it's going to be used for pleasure. It's the only purpose that it has, by the way. A lot of women don't realize that. If Hashem did not intend for you to have an orgasm, he wouldn't have created that particular organ. And he wouldn't have put a mitzvah derisa in the Torah for a man to be charged with this mitzvah. Okay, so it's very important to understand that. So if anybody's having particular issues in the bedroom, whether it's with the husband who can't or won't, for whatever the reason, they need some re-education, that could be possible. Or the woman is having some issues because she feels a little blocked, or she feels shy, or she feels whatever. All the programs are going through, I've heard them all. I went through it myself. It's important to clear this out and heal yourself. Okay, so I think we started doing a manifestation, which we kind of got sidetracked. Okay, so if everyone has a piece of paper, I'd like you to get a piece of paper and draw a circle. And I want you to put you and your husband, like you get a little happy face of you and your husband in there. And when you think of being with your husband, what comes to your mind? Okay, like write like 5 adjectives that you feel that are positive.
What do you do into the circle?
Oh, yeah, make a circle and then right in the middle, you and your husband, right? So it's like this manifestation. Okay, whichever way you want. Okay, now what I also want you to do is I want you to think of some negative things that might come up when we try to do this manifestation, as an example. So we're going to close our eyes and we're going to imagine this big, beautiful circle in front of us with me and my husband, okay? And we're going to imagine that we're embraced together and we're kissing each other and we're getting ready for this amazing intimacy together, okay? What comes out? Does any block come up for you? Like, oh no, I can't, or fear or worry or stress, whatever. Think about that, because that is where your block is. Okay, so we're going to take 1 minute break. Okay, we're going to come back and we're going to do a manifestation together. Okay, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to manifest this together. We're going to manifest this beautiful intimacy together, because what is a manifestation, right? What is it? It's actually creating our reality in the future, which is happening literally 1 second from now. So in order to change our reality, we need to think in our brain, right? We want to create intention, thought, and action. That is how we change our reality. And what we want to do is, with intention, thought, and action, see what comes up in our radar, on our thoughts, in our beliefs, anything that's coming up. We can then clear those out and get rid of those blocks in real time. That's how that works. Okay? So go ahead and take 1 minute, come up, think about that. And we're going to do it all together. And we're going to ask Hashem to bless us that we know that Hashem created intimacy to pull his Shekhinah down into the bedroom. But it only happens when husband and wife are connected and they are in this beautiful, blissful space. And the husband is focused on pleasing the wife, and the wife is into the husband, and they are connected and they're bonded together. Then they pull the Shrina of Hashem into their bedroom, and they can be beautiful children. And that's how the Jewish nation is supposed to run. Okay, and that should not be shameful. That should be something that is taught openly. It shouldn't be something that should be shameful. Okay, so that's the goal. So I want you to think about that. Okay, so we're going to come back in 1 minute. Just take a 1 minute break. You want to just pause the recording for a second? And everyone could just think about it. Okay, so now what are we going to do? So we're going to close our eyes, and I want you now to think about your picture with your husband, and you're visualizing, so if you're going to the mikvah, if you're still going to the mikvah, go to the mikvah. Great, now you went to the mikvah, what do you feel like, okay, whatever. So you want to then ask Hashem, just please clear away all those negative feelings that I have about going to the mikvah. Okay, then you come home and you walk in the door and you see your husband. He's sleeping. No, just kidding. Okay, hey, sweetheart, how are you? Right? So what do you feel when you see him? Are you excited? Is he smiling at you? You like his smile? You like his cologne? You like his perfume that he wears? Or is he making you feel special? If not, what's coming up? So if it's something negative, again, you want to just say, Hashem, can you please take away all these negative feelings that I have towards my husband regarding whatever is coming up? And then visualize you with your husband in the bedroom, and you're embracing your husband. And now you're like thinking, when is this going to be over? Like, I can't wait to get back into my bed or whatever. What's going on in your brain? Right? Any negative thoughts that are coming up. Hashem, can you please take away all these negative thoughts that I have? I don't want to think these thoughts about my husband. I want to think positive thoughts. And all those positive things that you wrote down, Hashem, please replace all those negative thoughts that I had with positive thoughts from my husband. And then visualize being with your husband, allowing yourself to release with your husband. If you've never had that experience before, what would that feel like to you? Maybe you've gotten turned on and you thought that maybe was good enough. A lot of women say they get turned on, but they just can't get beyond that. Okay, why is that? There's reasons for that. Hashem, please clear out all the reasons why I can't release with my husband. I want to. It's normal. It's every woman can have an orgasm. I'm just telling you, it absolutely can. Just like every man can. Can't, there's something wrong. Hashem, please, the more specific you are with your requests, the faster it comes. I want to serve you. I want to bring your Shrina down into my bedroom, Hashem. Please help me. I'm struggling so much here. Manifest this. And keep asking over and over and over until you break through and you can see you're with your husband and you're smiling at him. He's smiling at you. And you're embraced together. And you're ending in a beautiful orgasm. Okay? If you can see that. If you could feel that. If not, Hashem, please help me with this. Maybe I'm bashful. Maybe my husband not willing. Hashem, please help my husband wake up to his reality. You know, all you have to do is show your husband, if he's a God-fearing man, the Gemara. Go over the notes, get a book on it. It's very crystal clear. Women are pretty straightforward. Okay, so,
There are questions.
okay, any questions? Go ahead.
Okay, so You have someone who's saying that just going to the mikveh itself is a struggle. They go to the mikveh, they're running into the house, crazy, hectic, their polish is off, their hair's dripping wet when they come home, they have their glasses, not their contacts. How are you supposed to feel sexy when you need to another 2 hours just to put yourself back together again?
Yeah, so the question is about mikvah. You go in the mikvah and you feel like you're like a mess when you come out. So they have hair dryers. I suggest you take the time when you're at the mikvah, put your makeup on, put yourself together, make yourself, prepare yourself. Sometimes the husbands are waiting in the car, right? You get in the car, you give them a nice hello, have some fun in the car, be playful. Yeah, it's a problem. Listen, I know, and I know that women hate going to the mikvah on Friday for that very reason. Friday night's the worst, right? No makeup, all shadows, right? I hated that. But yes, listen, mikvah is challenging for a lot of women. But the good news is that most mikvahs are gorgeous, right? And you just bring all your stuff, and you bring your shtegel and bring yourself ready to go before you come home, so you're ready.
Another person is saying something that you've already addressed a little bit, that they really hate it. They can't think of intimacy. They rarely are on and never had an orgasm yet.
Right, okay, so that's the question is that she doesn't like sex, she doesn't like intimacy, she doesn't, and so the question is, this is the question, is was she ever attracted to her husband? Because there are some women, especially in the Hasidic world, where they are just forced to marry men that they don't like they tried their entire engagement. I've met plenty of women like that, and it just doesn't get better after they get married, and now they're like, oh, I can't stand this. So I don't know if she likes the guy. Like, is she attractive? You can ask her that question. Is she attracted to her husband? Because if she's got a good guy, if she's attractive, could be just mechanical. It's just a mechanical. Honestly, it can be mechanical as well. I have women that don't like their husband, but still are able to orgasm with their husbands. But that could be something that you need to see, either a sex therapist, there's plenty of really good ones out there. It could be an energy-based problem that we could potentially help you with. It just really depends on what's going on. But there's definitely something wrong. So she would need to consult somebody to help with that.
And just from experience, I know clients have come to you for a combination of coaching with the energy work, and that seems to
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
address it in multiple.
Had, just in the last year, 8 ladies had their very first orgasm. And most of them, it wasn't so much that they hated sex. Actually, one lady actually hated it a lot. And then she's able to release it to her husband. And she's like, I can't believe we have 20 years of really bad intimacy, and now it's really, really wonderful. So sometimes it's technical details. It's like understanding how it works. Sometimes the guy has to get on, he just gets used to just using you and just, being you're my vessel. And if that's how we're looking at it, there's no room for pleasure, and it becomes a chore.
Sure. So do you get the husband involved on that end sometimes? Do you ever?
Yes, yeah, we definitely have to get the husbands on board sometimes to understand that. And sometimes we send them off for re-education to different husband teachers, depending on which community they're from.
We have a woman who said there was some molesting by a family member when she was younger. How do we overcome that? Because it is interfering with her sexuality.
Yeah, that's a pure energy-based problem that needs to
You
be.
need to repeat.
Oh, yeah, so the question is, somebody had sexual molestation, which is getting in the way of her enjoying intimacy with her husband, which is a very big problem. It is actually rampant. It's shocking to see how many people have this problem. I actually was speaking to one of my clients, and they were at an Airbnb, and she was having her 14-year-old son sleeping with her 8-year-old daughter. I said, why are you doing that? Why are you putting your daughter in a position of potentially being molested by your son? You would never do such a thing. I'm like, sweetheart, do you know how many people tell me? I'm like, they tell me that they were molested by their brother. And I said, where was your mother? Sleeping. It's like, nobody knows what's going on. Don't put your daughters in a position where any man, don't trust anybody, okay? Husbands, I'm sorry, it's so common, it's like shocking. But my point is that if it did happen to you, it's an energy-based problem that needs to be addressed with energy work, okay? It's a trauma. Trauma is an energy-based problem. That's pretty easy to fix, okay?
There's this one lady who said her husband struggles to connect with her outside the bedroom. Conversation, it's just her talking. He's distracted. She can't even get his attention. So the only connection she has is in the bedroom, and it's obviously lacking connection.
Right, that's a very common complaint that I get, where a lot of women say there's just no connection. My husband, nobody's home. He's just like mechanical, he's very technical, and he's just, it's not fun, and there's no relationship other than just the intimacy piece of it. So again, that's more of an educational piece. It could be an energy piece, it could be an emotional issue, it could be, a lot of people a lot of men are technical. That's why that was so funny when the comedian was saying, if you want your husband to love, you just don't talk. It's because men don't necessarily like to talk. Women like to talk and talk and talk and talk, and then just like, they just like check out. But yeah, it's hard if your husband's not into you or doesn't want to talk to you, and then just wants to be with you for that. It's a very common problem. And the way that you solve that is you sit your husband down and you try to help him understand. But sometimes the emotional centers are just not working. Again, it's an energy-based problem that a lot of times people go through so much in their life, it's just not worth feeling. So they just shut those emotions down. Sometimes they're born like that. It could be a conception trauma problem where, their parents were constantly bickering and fighting, and it was not safe to show emotions or have emotions for that matter, or you had no rights to emotions. So those things just got shut down again. It's an energy-based problem.
So you have praise, actually. It's someone who came to you as a client, and she said it's been over a year since doing work with you. She used to have dread before being with her husband, actual dread.
Wow.
A lot of resentments, a very hard time for her to get aroused. She's doing this meditation now today and realizing that she has 0 negative thoughts attached to it.
That's amazing. So basically, I don't know if you heard, because you speak softly.
Sorry.
One of our clients from a year ago, she's saying that, she dreaded being with her husband because we did a lot of work together. This is not a one-time deal usually. This is, over a period of time. And there's a lot of factors that go into this. It could be like 50 different aspects that we look at when we're working with couples. But she's saying now she doesn't dread it. She actually likes it. And when we did the meditation, she didn't feel any negative thoughts towards her husband, which is really amazing.
And one person is asking, is conception trauma a one-time clearing, or do you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Conception is very easy to clear. Basically what we do is we imagine the embryo. I just close my eyes and I just scan the embryo, and I could feel like the pain of what was going on. That got transferred onto this child. And that child will feel anxious, will feel all kinds of stuff. And a lot of kids are brought to me for like behavioral issues. And I'm like, conception trauma is when it started. It started all the way when you conceived this child. So ladies, you've got to understand, you're going to be with your husband, and especially if you're making babies with him, you've got to get this piece of your life sorted out, or your kids are going to be messed up. It's just the way it is. It just works out like that.
There's one person who asked, what if their fear of getting pregnant, because they're just exhausted, they just had a child recently, and that's what's making their fear of intimacy.
Listen, here you go. Yeah, that's, it is, I totally get that. So there's birth control, and there's what?
Talk to your rabbi.
Talk to your rabbi. Oh, yeah, we'll give you 6 months. You're like, but yeah, no, it's a big problem of fear of getting pregnant, definitely. And I think there's a rhythm method, like you ovulate. What do they call those kinds of people? Parents. Doesn't work so easy, but there's all kinds of things that you could do that help with that. Try to help with that.
That's it for
That's
right
it.
now.
Okay, amazing.
Someone wrote in response to that question, there is something called the wise women's choice. I don't know anything about it, but it's called the wise women's choice.
Okay, and what is that?
I don't know. I have to look that up.
Wise women's choice. Okay. All right. So does anybody have any questions, any comments, anything? Do they find this enlightening? Do they learn something that they didn't already know? It's something that's very important. It's shocking that this is not taught more widespread. I think in the olden days, maybe mothers used to teach it to their daughters, and now it's being outsourced to college teachers, and the mothers are assuming that they're teaching their daughters correctly. I don't really know. what's going on, but we're definitely seeing a lot of disturbing things that are coming through in terms of things that shouldn't be happening for couples, disaster stories that are coming in. I had a Revison reach out to me, Chabad. She was like in her mid-50s. She absolutely hates her husband. Hates him. I wish he would die, what she told me. Why? Why? Because he's so selfish in the bedroom. She goes, I'm a college teacher. I know about female orgasm. I have to please myself without him. He refuses to give me more than 5 minutes of his time. Then he's got to go over. And they have, all their kids have, they're totally messed up, all of their children. Each one of them have different issues. And I said, why don't you talk to him? She's like, I do. There's nobody home. He's like, he's so busy learning Torah. Why doesn't he practice what he preaches? Poor woman. It was like, we did a lot of sessions with her. We tried to help her, and we did some work on the husband. But he was taught minimalistic approach, and it's like, you gotta learn, he's like a robot. You gotta learn, you gotta learn, I have one story after the next. It's like crazy about, what goes down, and women suffer a lot. There's no reason for this. It's not Torah, people. This is not Torah. This is a man who's a Torah scholar that's treating his wife like that. Hashem is not happy. If you're making your wife cry, all your Torah is not worth anything. It's really not. This is where it's at. You really got to help your husband appreciate this mitzvah and help him do it right. That's why it's called own your ona. Take responsibility for your own ona. Because if you can teach your husband how to do this to you, for you, then guess what? He now gets the mitzvah, and you guys can have peace and you can enjoy being with him.
Most women are taught not to touch themselves.
What?
Most women are taught not to touch themselves.
Right, and women are also taught, don't touch yourself, right? Like when you're younger, you might play around, you're like, oh, that actually feels nice. And then your mom's like, oh, why are you doing that? It's not sneeze. Oh, okay. So then they get this shame feeling of, it's not appropriate to touch myself, when it's just exploring your body. Okay. Yes, go ahead.
I'm curious, even if you think that you have good thoughts, how can it disturb your family? Like the children that are created.
Well, if you're in a good headspace with your husband, even if you're not having orgasm, you're fine. But it's the women that come into the bedroom resenting their husband, or she's feeling raped by her husband and they have a baby from that union, or the man is frustrated with his wife, or there's rejection going on. That's when there's a problem. Okay. So we're going to just take a quick break. Okay, we are going to bring out a 3D diagram for anybody that wants that type of education. These last things. Yeah, we're gonna please God, we'll do another lecture probably in a few weeks' time, whatever people feel like they need. Thank you. Okay,
Yeah, that part is-
yeah, go ahead.
You could still have good sex without having an orgasm.
You can, but that's not, imagine your husband not having an orgasm. Would that be acceptable?
But you could still feel close to your husband and still
Of
feel
course.
all those emotions and not necessarily like,
Have
I
orgasm.
mean, and still feel good. Like
Yeah,
it
of
doesn't feel,
course.
it feels fine. It's just that
Of
you're not
course.
like doing a whole.
Yes, and that, by the way, does happen sometimes. Okay, so let's give an example. So the question was, can you still enjoy being with your husband even though you're not having the orgasm? Yes, you can. And by the way, a lot of women are so exhausted, they don't have energy to put all that energy in, and they have what's called a quickie. Their husbands are happy, she's happy, they get it over with, but you don't want to do that all the time, because you wouldn't expect your husband just to do that and get all turned on and then not release. Well, why is it okay for a woman for some reason? Because what happens is if you do that, your body gets turned on and you don't release. And you get turned on and you don't release. You get turned on and you don't release. Guess what happens? You don't get turned on anymore. Imagine your husband gets all turned on, right? Keep in mind, it's the same work. It's in the same spot. It works the same way. Your husband gets all hard. Sorry, sweetheart, I can't be with you tonight. Next night, he's hard. Sorry, sweetheart, I'm not gonna be with you tonight. Next night, he's hard. Sorry, I'm not gonna be with you tonight. After a while, he's not gonna get turned on to you. So don't accept that. Oh, it feels nice. It might be nice once in a while to do that, but that is not mitzvah's ona. That's not the way it's supposed to be. Yeah, go ahead.
I feel like there might be a lot of issues with the religious world because as children, teenage,
Mhm.
either male or female, they were
Molested,
told. No,
Or
not
not,
molested,
or-
I'm saying they were
told,
not supposed to, I guess, ejaculate
right.
or follow through with those desires.
Yeah.
or Feelings.
Well, there's a lot of shutdown that goes down. Women have to be CS and men can't look and they can't do that. And then suddenly, you know, like, you're married and it's like, it's very difficult to like get those beliefs to stop, you know, shutting you down. A lot of men, they have impotency issues when they first get married because I've heard men can take up to 6 months sometimes before they can finally consummate the marriage. These are normal, healthy boys just because they fear Hashem and they might have a bit of OCD going on there. And I know this one guy, he was like, he came to us, he'd been to 4 different doctors or therapists, sex therapists, a bad guy, he was a rabbi, couldn't consummate the relationship with his wife because he was so fearful of releasing any kind of semen outside that the second he got hard, he's like, oh my gosh. And then he would like instantly go soft again. So he wouldn't kiss his wife, he wouldn't touch her, anything, because wherever he did her got him so turned on. And so then the second he would try to penetrate her, he would go soft because I don't know, it just like, he was so messed up in the brain. Poor guy. So wife, I think they had to get divorced. She was like, was going out of her mind. She couldn't let her for months and months and months went on. He wouldn't warm her, he wouldn't kiss her, he wouldn't do anything. Because he had such OCD. And we did try to work with him a little bit, but whatever. This was like, it can get expensive sometimes, these kinds of cases. So I felt bad for them. But yeah, it's really crazy what goes down.
Is there a way that the Jewish educators could help people when they're coming married to, I guess, have that transformative thought processing?
So yeah, the question is, to have that, when they're getting, engaged or they're, potentially gonna be getting married. I know the problem is that, they don't wanna get too graphic with men before they get married, because then they get all turned on and the thought of, so they'll just say, okay, so just get married, but I think there needs to be a task force. After they get married, this is where the issue is that there is nobody seeing what is going on with these couples.
And it becomes like a very taboo
Exactly,
topic,
then it
like you
becomes
don't talk about.
Correct, it
it.
becomes a
Yeah.
taboo topic, and they're afraid to talk with their mom, they just, and then the guy just like, what's going on here, like, it's just like, it's really a problem, and often girls get pregnant right away, and then like, so in 9 months of no break, it's
Right,
like,
right.
this is too much for me, and then, it just carries on like
The
that.
word task force is actually a great word because you want both the person who's advising the woman and the husband to be on the same page,
Correct, we
So
want to be on the
that's,
same page,
you
yeah.
know?
So, we were gonna do a little demonstration, are you interested in that, or save that for another time? Maybe
Sure.
later. Yeah, okay.
There were a lot more questions that
Okay, more
suddenly came
questions?
in. It's a lot of
Okay.
questions.
What part of-
Let me go back up.
How many people on Zoom?
Still
Is it
65.
that- that's not what-
Yeah, we were at
What's
almost.
it advertised?
Sorry?
Well, okay. So, so someone who's basically rejecting her husband all the time, her libido is just low and he's getting insulted. She's
Yeah,
tired of
course.
explaining it.
Yeah.
Is it most likely an energetic or could there
Right,
be?
so somebody's got a low libido,
Sorry.
oftentimes it is an energetic issue, and it could honestly be all the way, from the time that she started having intimacy with her husband, that she just didn't like it, and it just, if you're not getting turned on, you're not having orgasm with your husband, your libido is going to just die. You're gonna have zero desire, which is the way it is. That's why it's so important to keep this alive. It's an energy. It has a form, it has a beauty, it has a a certain flow to it. And if you just let it die, you're gonna have no libido. So that's purely an energy-based issue that we can definitely help, you know, depending on the cause of why it died, assuming you had to begin with.
I have a woman who says her husband is possibly ADD or on the spectrum, so he's like, not even focused completely on her when he's with her, you
Yeah.
know?
So that's hard, men are all over the place, ADD, ADHD, not focused, but sweetheart, stay focused, It's a little hard. You gotta help them. Okay.
Someone's talking about in seminary, sometimes girlfriends have gotten too close to one another and
I've heard that a lot of seminary situations where girls are touching each other and it's kind of a molestation from girl to girl. It happens, by the way, and men to men, it's so common. It's like, I was shocked to hear how many men have told me. I think more than half of my men clients have told me that they were molested.
so we have a person who isn't sure if she's orgasmed. She said, how do you know if you orgasm?
Oh, you will know. You will know. It's like, how does a guy know? Okay. It's so funny. Sometimes, I'll be working with a couple and, she's like, I don't know. I'm like, well, do you think your wife orgasms? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, trust me, she's not orgasming. You will know because it is this uncontrollable feeling that comes over. It's this pure, amazing feeling that it builds up, builds up, builds up. And then suddenly it's like, how do you know your husband just had a release? It's the same thing for a woman.
Someone's asking if you can mention about painful sex after giving birth. After she's 13 weeks postpartum and it's still hurting her.
So somebody that just gave birth is still hurting. There could be energy that's stuck in there, by the way. We've had so many situations where women had in the hospital or something, or they were cut a little bit, and that the surgery actually has some kind of an energy block in there, and that's why it's so sore. It has nothing to do with the physical birth. It's an actual energy-based problem often. That's what's going on with that.
Okay. Someone who had infertility issues, and so for months, the intimacy was only about, we got to get pregnant. It's time to get pregnant. I'm ovulating,
Yeah.
How do you go back to actually enjoying intimacy when your association with it is there? You need to clear those.
Yeah, it's an energy-based
trauma.
problem. Somebody had,
Trauma.
sorry?
It's like a trauma.
It's a trauma.
It's an
Yeah, so somebody's, like,
association,
worried
yeah.
about, getting pregnant. Again, we can often help with the intimacy issues that people are having and the infertility problems. And we've had quite a few people get pregnant when they tried for years and years because it was an energy-based problem. And I have very specific methods that I work with couples like that on making it fun and playful, because if you do conceive a baby, right, you want it to be in the best possible scenario. You don't want it to be this technical child that's like a robot,
Someone's asking, what if there actually is a hormonal imbalance, like someone who's gone through menopause early or whatnot?
Well,
Can we help?
menopause is not an issue. Okay, it could be that, it depends on lots of factors, but if you might need some kind of hormone to help you with that issue. But again, there's plenty of women that have gone through menopause that have never had any sexual issues after menopause.
What about
it
if,
has to be?
what if they had a hysterectomy, which,
Oh, well, that's different. Hysterectomy, for sure, you're having, things cut out of you. That definitely is going to play around with your hormones. It doesn't mean that you're not able to orgasm. It just means, that certain things, and by the way, surgery, believe it or not, often creates a lot of energy imbalances within a person. When doctors go to cut, they're cutting through energy lines, meridian lines, which are basically a part of the Chinese medicine system, and there's thousands of points all over our body. So if you cut through, say in the stomach, you cut right through all these meridian lines, it's going to create a lot of problems for a woman. It's going to play out all kinds of problems that people have. So it could be an energy-based problem. Again, it's hard to know. The first question I always ask when clients come is it an energy problem, energy-based problem, or is it a physical problem? It's a physical problem that we have to look from the physical perspective, we can fix it. If it's an energy-based problem, then it's going to be, somewhere on any of these sheets that I've got here. And then we just have to figure out how to clear it.
and there's one person who said she actually climaxed beautifully before having children, and since she's given birth, she can't.
Okay, so she was able to climax before and now she can't. That's probably an energy-based problem. Again, giving birth is traumatic. to the vaginal wall and the trauma, the pain, all that stuff can get stored in the wall. It needs to be cleared energetic.
What about just doing like pelvic floor exercise?
No, I don't think the
Strength
pelvic floor, it depends, again, if it's an energy-based problem, physical-based problem, it really depends. There could be somebody that got torn or hurt, actually in the vaginal wall, it's hard to know. But usually that's an energy-based problem, especially if they had, some kind of stitches or some kind of suture, or it could be so many reasons.
Another person is saying that they feel like they've been stretched after giving birth and therefore the sensations not the same.
It's true, it's not the same. That's why Hashem also created the clitoris. The clitoris, it doesn't stretch out if they're always, so you don't have to worry about the vagina stretching out. But yeah, if you like your vaginal orgasm, it's a big problem if it's getting all stretched out. Surgeries, yeah.
There's
I
some
wouldn't do a
laser
surgery, but
techniques.
I'm petrified by the surgery.
Yeah.
I think you could
There's
create more
different-
problems
there's
than
different
you're
stuff
solving with
that there is.
surgery.
But also people have to give themselves time. Some people think that they're like,
Yeah.
they're like shocked at how they feel after they give birth, but like, you have to give yourself a little bit
Yeah,
of
I
time.
mean, you could
Sometimes it could
definitely-
take someone like a couple, 6, 7, even a year to get back to normal.
Right, yeah,
Doesn't
it will
always-
take some time to get back. It's true, I mean, you can try to do exercises depending on, how it went and what kind of shape you're in. Sometimes there's, people are mineral deficient, the minerals, we can, we go into that, in terms of understanding minerals, how they impact the elasticity, could be a silica deficiency, there's so many things it could be. If they're lacking minerals, the way that the body is stretching, it doesn't have that ability to form, to go right back.
And actually, having intimacy is one of the ways to tone that area.
What that is. Right, when it's, right, so when it's contracting, when the vagina actually contracts, because you will feel it, like you will actually feel, the man will feel on his penis when the vagina is orgasming. It's an actual contraction that, and you will feel it, like you'll just, and afterwards you just kind of fall, like you just fall backwards, like, whoa, like that was intense. You will know if you had an orgasm, and you will know if you don't. You'll feel kind of like a little edgy, and the next morning you might still feel turned on. By the way, I tell women it lasts for 24 hours. So if you weren't able to finish, grab your husband the next day, or the next night. Okay, sweetheart, it's my turn. I need you to help me out, because the good news about that is you're still turned on from the day before. So it means that it can take you 1 or 2 minutes to get to the finish line, because you're already like almost there, so that's a good thing to know.
What if you are, like not meet at night, but your husband wants to be with you and like, it's just such craziness from kids and life and
Mhm.
houses flying
Yeah,
and
the
just
house.
so much going on, and it's like,
That's welcome to motherhood. So those are called quickies. A quickie is where you just basically, you just do it quickly to be, to help your husband along. But you need to have at least 1 or 2 times per week that you really, per week, 1 or 2 times per week where you enjoy it. You have to enjoy it with
how
your
many
husband.
times a week do you think people should have it?
2 to 3 times per week, sometimes 4, depending on the guy. Sometimes men need it way more. So there's other women like, I just, it's too much for me. So fine, so just then have a quickie with them, like 2 quickies in the week, and then two times, at least 1 time. We're talking about if you're getting your period, right, or your NIDA 2 weeks out of the month. So you have 2 weeks. So you're only having 2 orgasms in one month. That's not really healthy. It's an amazing stress relief. I mean, it's so fantastic to be able to allow yourself to do that. It helps on so many different things. And again, you have a healthy sexual appetite where you're, on the husband. And again, it's not just a quickie for him, but you actually enjoying it. You will be able to have a good quality intimacy all the way into your 70s with your husband, believe it or not. I had this one woman, she's like, I'm old, I'm 55. I'm like, 55? Like, sweetheart, you're in the prime of your sexuality here, It's amazing when you're in your fifties because your kids are older, you don't have to stress about all these, like, just mothers here, she's like, I'm so busy with my little kids. Your kids are older, you have your own time with your husband, the kids are all out of the house, it's just the two of you every night. You could just
And you're
snooze
not
and-
limited to 2 weeks out of the month most of the time.
Really, no, they just cuddle. I like when cuddles cuddle every night. They just cuddle to be lovers and friends and just get used to that constant connection. And it has nothing, it's not necessarily sexual touch, it's just a holding each other. It's just a loving each other. It's just a connecting to each other, which women really, really need that. And men don't know how to do that often. So I say to husbands, just hold your wife, just hold her. Just hold her like you love her. Not necessarily that you just want her for her body. She wants to feel loved and connected.
Someone else is, yeah. Someone is asking about being angry the next morning after climaxing. Have you had anyone with that kind of
That's an interesting
experience?
question. If you're feeling angry, there's probably some kind of disturbance, interaction going on that is affecting you or infecting you or your husband. Chances are there's no reason to be angry unless you have repressed anger and it is coming up to be processed. That could be what's going on. Again, these questions are vague, they're difficult to answer, you
Right.
know. You want to come that to me? So we do offer a free energy scan. Okay, if you go on to MoodTek/therapy, I think that we put it on the website, on the link that you guys all got as well. You can get a free scan if you're interested, and you can just tell me, what particular issues you're having. If you say shallow bias is way too vague, you can tell me specifically what are your issues, and we can tell you what we can help you with. Having a difficult time climaxing or whatever the problem is, just a quick little paragraph, nothing too complicated. And then we can give you a quick scan to see what's going on and if we can help you and, going from there.
Did you hear that Rambam said it's not healthy for his body to do too much? I don't know what she's trying to say.
Oh, for a man to release his sperm too much, is that what they're talking about? Well, can I just say the following? I've heard that before. So why in the world would a man have 4 wives? I don't buy it. I'm sorry.
Another person is
Maybe they were
asking,
saying- Maybe they were saying that you shouldn't be completely like sexually, like you shouldn't be having the sexual thoughts like on a very consistent basis.
That's what men do though. They just do. It's just how it is. We're not gonna be able to change men, right? So we just gotta kind of just go along with the way that men are programmed. But I've heard that before, and men kind of get this in their brain that they need to minimize it. But the problem is they minimize it on the wife's expense. Don't minimize it. You're supposed to be with your wife as
But
much
that
as
comes back to what the
she-
mitzvah is.
correct. You're supposed to be with her as much as she needs. It's got nothing to do with you guys. Sorry. You're just the pleasure provider. Okay. That's how we look at it. So it doesn't say that, that there's nowhere that I've ever read that a man, shouldn't be with his wife because he's going to take away his stamina or his strength. I've heard that before though. And I know that there is, other religions that they actually don't let the man release.
they do it in athletics. For like
Yeah.
a week before the Super Bowl, no one's allowed to be with their
Yeah.
wives,
No,
you know?
it's kind of-
In professional sports.
Like before war, that they.
They want to build up that testosterone because it causes aggression.
No, but we just know, like,
But
historically.
we also know that all these other religions, they suppress the
Right.
sex, nuns, priests, they're not allowed to have sex.
Right.
And then Judaism, we take it and we say, no, it's a beautiful thing and you're allowed to have it and
Right.
you make it holy.
Make it holy, correct. And what is holy? Holy doesn't mean that you're sneeze and you come in and you're shy and you're not enjoying. That's not holy. That's what a lot of people get confused. Holy means that you are pulling Hashem into your bedroom by enjoying. It's like coming to the Shabbos table. I'm gonna enjoy Shabbos. I'm just gonna sit here and I'm gonna daven all day and I'm not gonna eat and I'm just going to have a little piece of bread and no, that's not what Hashem wants you to do. He wants you to come and sing and be b'simcha, enjoy all the delicious things about Shabbos to the greatest extent. But you're being holy in the process, right? So we have to identify what is being holy, okay? And sometimes people get a really big distorted perception of what that means. It's just religious programming or faulty religious programming. We sometimes have to brainwash them. I say, wash their brains out of all the religious programs that are coming in that are not really Judaism. They're just not. It's just not. It just, I don't know where it's coming from, but it's not okay what is happening. That's all I could say.
I think for women who, I think you said the word bashful or shy, maybe they're too passive in
They're
their.
passive, yeah.
Even if they are comfortable with their spouse.
Right.
They still might, since they have those religious beliefs,
Mhm.
they're not capable of like vocalizing
Right,
what they
right.
want, because they're not sure if it's
Mhm.
appropriate or.
Yeah, well, they feel like there's something wrong with it because they have been told that there's something wrong with, enjoying, like, it's not sneeze, don't let him touch you, this, that, the, whatever. I don't know. I don't know where it's coming
Maybe
from.
talk for a minute,
Sorry?
maybe talk for a minute about that, if someone.
Like, how do people make it better, so they can be sharing with their
Well, I
husband, what
think
makes
part,
them
okay,
feel good.
it's a great, so if you are that person where you feel bashful with your husband, or you feel like, you feel used by him. So it's something you really need to sit down with a therapist that can help you be clear about the goal of intimacy. It's sometimes, it's just a philosophy, it's an understanding, it's allowing you to just give yourself permission to enjoy. That's, I think, what happens for some people. For me, like I told my story at the beginning, if you were on the call, that I got really shut down by my college teacher. And it took me a year, but my husband just like patiently, like, Rochel, like, she really messed with your brain. Like, she really tweaked your brain to make you think that just normal stuff, enjoying intimacy with me, is somehow sinful. It's not sinful. And again, that is a tweak in the brain. It can be a program. It has to be a massage. So it's got to be worked through to help you understand that you have been given false information.
And people are talking about if you can help them, like, is it okay for the woman to touch herself while the male is there?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, absolutely. If a woman needs to do it to herself because her husband won't, or he doesn't know how, or she doesn't feel comfortable, or whatever, absolutely.
And some women do release fluid and some don't when they orgasm.
Correct.
Right. Mhm.
Right. Mhm.
That's most of the questions. It's very personalized. I think at the end of the day, what you're saying is a lot of things are personalized, and some things do require some rabbinical intervention, like someone who's not menstruating normally because of an IUD and things like that. Those are questions, I think, more rabbinical.
Yeah, no, there's a lot, there's so many, like, like I said, that book is this fat because there's so many different scenarios of this way and that way. And it just, the most important thing is for you to step into your own sexual power, for you to really explore that yourself. Because if you are not in your own sexual power and understand how you can have an orgasm, you cannot expect your husband to be able to provide you the una. It's just not possible. That's why I say own your una. You need to take responsibility for your part of this to allow your husband to provide the mitzvah correctly. Otherwise, he's not going to be able to do it. That is, the hardest part, is getting beyond your fears and your worries and your shame and your sense of, oh, this might not be SNES or whatever the crazy programs, those crazy programs that got, installed for different reasons.
Someone's asking, why aren't the men learning this?
It's a great question. A lot of men are learning it. Like that one guy that I told the story, he did learn all this and his wife was shut down. She refused to let him do anything to her. So a lot of men are learning it, by the way. A lot of men do. And the women are just taught, just follow your husband, and then that works great. So there's no messing with the women's mind, because I think it's way worse when a woman gets shut down than a guy does.
This woman is saying that they're taught that they're not allowed to ask for it, which,
Well, no, we're not talking about asking for it. We're talking about you guys are going to be together. And we're not talking about you're sitting at the dinner table and you say, hey, sweetheart, you want to have sex with me tonight? That's what they're talking about, okay? You're not allowed to say it like that. You want some desserts? You know, but once you guys are already being together, of course you can ask for him to give you an orgasm. Of course you must. It's a mitzvah.
That's it for questions for now. Some people want to be more comfortable when they're having sex. I think a lot of people may need to reach out to the clinic to see if there is an energetic component, if we can help
Yeah.
them.
Sometimes there is an energetic component that is blocking them, and especially if they've been going at it like this for so many years, it just becomes like, it's just not fun. And it's difficult to be playful and fun when it hurts and it's not fun and you feel inconvenienced and your husband, you know, it's just, you feel used by him. He's not so nice to you. And there's a lot of factors that go into good quality intimacy. So we really deal with it. I mean, we deal with a lot of marriages and we deal from A to Z. And intimacy is the last piece that I actually deal with for most couples, only because there's so much of it, an emotional component that goes in, and grudges and bitternesses and all the things can go wrong in a marriage. Those have to be sorted out first for the intimacy to really work.
Do you have a recommendation for kosher ways of either positioning or comfortability for these couples who have, or these women who have difficulty with?
I can't go into positions. I don't feel comfortable talking about that. You know, it really is I mean, basically, like it said in the Gemara, a man can do whatever he wants with his wife, especially when it comes to the mitzvahs ona. You know, everything is allowed, pretty much, except for a couple of, you know, very specific. You can't look at the hole, you can't kiss the hole, size that, whatever it takes to get her to where she needs to be. He's allowed to do that. Now, it depends again on which group you belong to. You know, some of these more strict Hasidic groups, you know, can't turn it below the waist. So I don't know what you do with that.
I can't type moodtek.com/therapy because the H isn't working.
You have to push hard. You've gotta push hard.
I'm trying, but
Yeah,
I'm just saying it out loud
Yeah.
again. So it's
MoodTek, MoodTek.com/ it's like the slash going, like leaning backwards, therapy. Okay, and then you can fill out, it's one of these little rings here, you get an energy scan, and you can just tell us what your issue is and see if we can help you.
And I posted on the chat, the phone number is 786-782-9804. So if you didn't get that link, I will text it to you if you reach out to
Okay.
that number. It's again, that's
Okay.
786-782-9804.
Yeah, so we'd love to hear from you if the people, you know, were on the call, if you could reach out to us, and if we're gonna do another lecture, let us know what it is that you want, that I can cover, that you feel would be helpful. You know, I'm not going into positions, I'm not going into, you know, those kinds of details, because it's just, it's a whole ball of wax that you're getting yourself into, because it's just a lot of detail that, you know, go into that. That is, again, it depends on your rabbi. You gotta follow your rabbi, you gotta follow your husband on that. But again, if you're not able to release in the position that he's making you go into, and you have a different position that will be better, again, the rule is mitzvahs ona trumps position. So you gotta, again, I'm not able to give any kind of advice like that, but just that's kind of the rule of thumb. Sometimes women need to be on top. Sometimes, you know, it needs to be a different, maybe coming in from a different angle that is more pleasurable for her. Certain positions are painful, you know, and certain positions aren't. So again, if the mitzvahs ona, is what always is the rule. Okay,
That's it.
okay. Thank you very much. And it was very nice meeting everybody. Hope that you got something out of this class and you learned something, walked away and got some insight. I also teach a class on energy medicine, which you can learn. Part of the course that we do go into is on female pleasure, orgasm, sexuality, learning how to clear this for people. It's a huge, huge, huge field. we go into, it's about 200 different types of modalities where we clear everything. Right now, I'm working on a protocol for processing disorders, and that is a mind-blowing protocol that fixing processing disorders for people that have like primitive reflexes that never got turned off. And we're able to turn them off and integrate them through energy work. And it is just incredible to see what's going on with these cases. So we're very progressive, and we're constantly reinventing ourselves and coming up with protocols to help our Jewish nation heal. Okay, so anyway, thank you very much for your time, and look forward to hearing from you all.
Have a great night, everyone. Thank you so much.
So just press